they could safely unload on the very precious measures. And all this safety came into question when I learned that on the 40th floor in that big center dome, none other than the notorious Chicago gangster, a Mr. Al Capone, was said to be running a speakeasy in those days called the Stratosphere Lounge. So yeah, gangsters up top, the jewelers down below. I'm sure it was all perfectly safe. But now we have this Hotel 71 here. I notice a very slender white building that's attached to it. It's actually a separate building. It's known as Mather Tower. And I pointed out because Mather Tower was the tallest building here in the city of Chicago for just 1 week. And we're going through a pretty big building boom at the time. That building was topped off in the tallest, and a week later, another building was a little bit taller. Yeah, we do go through these building booms from time to time. Went through one, we got the Sears Tower, the Aon Center, as well as the John Hancock Center, all within a few years of each other. Three of the tallest buildings as they stand here in the city of Chicago today. But now if you remember that Chicago Tribune Tower contest, the winners will be coming up off the left here, Hubbles and Wood, the Tribune Tower. And then directly across the way, the first building this side of Michigan Avenue is 333 North Michigan Avenue. This building actually pays tribute to the second place design in that Tribune Tower contest. Second place design was done by Alil Saradin. Now, he didn't publish his design idea. When people around the city here saw this design, they realized that this is going to be the future of architecture. Now, Alil Saradin actually helped spread the Art Deco movement here in Chicago in the 1920s. So just a unique set of circumstances. Even though he was the runner-up in that Tribune Tower contest, his design ended up having more influence on architecture here. That building was put up a few years after the design competition just to pay tribute to his second place design. Off to the left, in between buildings, get a quick glimpse of the John Hancock Center here. One big X is running up its frame, two antennae shooting out the top. I've missed the first time, get a more prolonged view of it here in just a moment. It is the fourth tallest building standing here in Chicago, 1,127 feet to the roof, just 9 feet shy of the Aon Center, which is the third tallest. And here it is again now. Even though that is the fourth tallest building standing here in Chicago, they say you get the best views of Chicago from the John Hancock Center. And more specifically, they say that the best view is you go to the 96th floor, the Signature Room Lounge, and you take a look out the window of the women's washroom. Now, I personally have never been, but it appears to me that everyone who has been there seems to agree it is indeed the best view of the city of Chicago. And from what I hear, they will occasionally invite gentlemen in, take a quick view out the window there, so not a terribly private washroom. But I guess I get a great view of the city, so I want to check that out. Now, off to the right, we have this large triangular building standing here. I don't know, I guess it was known by none other than Harry Weiss and Associates, the man obsessed with the drama. This is home to the Swiss Hotel, fine hotel and establishment, I'm sure. Harry Weiss actually did two triangular buildings here in the city of Chicago. This is one of them, the Swiss Hotel, and the other one we don't get a really good view of from the river. But it is clad in stone, and it has very narrow windows. It's actually home to our Federal Correctional Facility in the area. I have not spent the night in either one of Harry Weiss's triangular buildings, so can't really compare the accommodations. After here, the Swiss Hotel, it's a fine place to stay. Now, off behind the Swiss Hotel now is Aqua. You might notice that each floor plate is uniquely curved and shaped. So it's supposed to look like waves are rippling through the building. Just paying tribute to the surrounding waterways here. It's all condos and hotel space, all the great balconies hanging off the sides. It's done by Jeannie Gang and Associates in 2009. I'll tell you a little bit about the Chicago flag. There's one here at Centennial Mountain, just underneath the American flag. It has 3 white stripes, 2 blue stripes. In the center white stripe, there are 4 red stars. Each white stripe represents a different side of our city. The top on the north side, the middle on the west side, the bottom on the south side. It's not much of an east side as we have that large lake. Then the 2 blue stripes represent the north and south branch of this Chicago River. And the 4 red stars commemorate 4 big happenings here in Chicago, 2 of them tragic, 2 triumphant. 2 tragic ones, the Fort Dearborn Massacre, as well as the Great Chicago Fire. The 2 triumphant ones, 2 great World's Fairs we've held here in Chicago. One of them, the Columbian Exposition of 1893, as well as the Century of Progress in 1933. Now, Chicago was founded as a town in 1833, so 1933 was the Century of Progress. But now, off to our left here, we have this little empty plot of land. It's where the Chicago Spire was supposed to go up, a 2,000-foot building we were supposed to get here in Chicago. Right now it stands as a 75-foot hole in the ground that's in the process of being foreclosed on. Now, they didn't manage to put down the foundation for the building. Rather, they dug down the caissons. Here in Chicago, can't put down a foundation to these buildings because Chicago is a swamp, and the foundation will sink. So what you have to do is dig down to the bedrock, usually like 80 to 100 feet down, drop these big steel tubes known as caissons in the ground, fill them with concrete, secure them to the bedrock. The bedrock actually serves as the foundation in most of our buildings here. Now clear Lakeshore Drive, come out east of Lakeshore Drive. Next up, another man by the name of Montgomery Ward, of all people. He actually fought 30 years of legal battles to keep all 29.4 miles of Chicago shoreline forever free and clear of any private structures. No private buildings were ever to rise here east of Lakeshore Drive. Yeah, except that one, which is Lake Point Tower, a large private building standing here east of Lakeshore Drive. Snuck in on something of a loophole in the law. I guess train tracks used to run through here. The railways had the rights to sell the air above their tracks. So they got this air rights loophole. It is the one and only private building here east of Lakeshore Drive. And Lake Point Tower is actually a tribute building, paying tribute to none other than Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Yeah, so the guy who did all the glass and steel box type buildings has this very curvilinear building in his honor. It seems counterintuitive. But actually, when Mies van der Rohe was studying at that Bauhaus in Germany in the 1920s, he drew a sketch of a building much like this one. Now, his building was only be around 20 stories tall and stand in Berlin. When he drew the sketch, the technology wasn't around to bend the steel that would be necessary. So when two of his students, Shipwright and Heinrich, came upon this sketch, they decided to show their gratitude to their professor for building Lake Point Tower here. When it was done in 1969, was the tallest all-residential structure in the world. Now we're going to be pulling the dock here in just a moment. I do have to ask that you all just remain seated for the time being, so you keep your places. It is a safety precaution. You have to get all the lines secure, the gangway in place. When everything's all set up, the captain will come out, tell you when it's safe to disembark, which sounds like a form of tree torture, but just means get off the boat. I used to have a life, now I have a Twitter account. It's 312Jeff if you're interested. And I've done the math. If I just add 200 followers a day for the next 72 years, I can catch up to Snooki. So that's a lifelong goal of mine. Within the next 40 years, I can catch up to MC Hammer. He has 2.7 million followers. Had no idea that guy was still so popular. But he is too legit to quit. Again, going to be pulling the dock here in just a moment. Kind of hang tight for the time being. I'll take this opportunity to thank you all for coming out here to join us here today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your time here in Chicago. If you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to share with me, I'll be at the end of the ramp there as you disembark. Also, while you're leaving us here today, don't forget to check out your boarding photos. And if you want a new family heirloom, or you just want to see what you looked like an hour ago, those pictures are over there. You all look much more well-informed now. And if you want to leave comments in a more public forum, there's Yelp as well as TripAdvisor, two websites you can go to, talk about how great your tour guide was. If you didn't think I was that great, don't waste your time. It's not worth the effort. So TripAdvisor and Yelp, you can go on there, look up Shoreline Sightseeing, leave comments if you'd like. But again, we'll get everything all set up here in just a moment. Kind of hang tight for the time being. And thanks for coming out, thanks for choosing Shoreline, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.